Hey guys, James with Torches and Tactical, and don't get lost in the mix. Today we're not talking about any of the TS10s, we're not talking about the WKO4, WKO3, any of those. What we're talking about today is Workhos's latest entry into the tactical lineup. Now we're going to go over this TD02, find out if this 2000 lumens from an SST40 and 254 meters of beam distance is enough to I guess make you want to say forget about it to the FC12, which has been tried and true in my arsenal. But we're going to go ahead and walk through all the specs on the TD02 and find out, like I said, if that's enough to give you everything you need to make this an immediate replacement for some of your other existing lights. Now, like I said, the TD02, now that doesn't have the WK moniker, it doesn't have the FC moniker. TD is supposed to be Workhos's tactical line, and their first entry was the TD01. That's a long-range thrower, and I'm hoping that we can review that one soon. But the TD02 is supposed to be a rear switch only tactical light, and it's supposed to give you everything you need all in one fell swoop. So let's start by looking into the packaging, and if I'm frank, that seems like a little bit of a step back for what we have been seeing recently. They've moved over to their white packaging quite a bit, and it looks really, really nice. So to see them step back to this orange and white, I guess kind of flip lid box that they have, it was kind of surprising when it showed up. Now, I don't know if that is because this is from Amazon. Yes, that's right. I ordered this from Amazon directly just so I could get you guys a review as soon as possible. So I don't know if the boxes are specific to Amazon, but I'm used now to seeing their white magnetic flip lid boxes, and I think that those look quite a bit better, frankly, than the orange and white of I guess all their older lights, or the boxes of yesteryear, if you will. So let's go ahead and, well, let's start by looking at this label here. So you can see it's the TD02. It is the black, and the set means that it comes with your Workhos branded 18650 cell. The SST40 comes in at between 6,000 and 6,500, depending on where you are in that mode scale. And if we open it up, for starters, you will see your instruction manual. That's going to give you all the specifications, letting you know that Eco comes in at 10 and runs for 150 hours. Low comes in at 100 lumens, runs for 18 hours. Medium is 400 lumens for 4 hours. High, 1000 lumens for 2.5 hours. And that turbo mode will run 2000 lumens and run for 2 hours. Now, no, it's not going to run at 2000 lumens that whole time. It will step down because of the automatic temperature regulation. But if we open it up, you can see it does have a bunch of that same information in a bunch of different languages. And here we have English, runs through everything as well. And we'll walk you through each and every step on how to get the most of your TD02. So let's get that out of the way and keep diving in. Here you can see they're back to their generic lanyards with the O-rings inside a little baggie. And if we keep diving in, now this is the actual bubble wrap that it did come wrapped up in. So we'll get that out of the way. We have a little tag here that lets you know that they did include a battery isolator film, and that is at the bottom right here. So this just isolates the battery, so it's not going to sit and turn on while it's in shipment. But we'll get that out of the way, and this. And finally, you have your USB-C cable. Now, it's not Workhos branded. It does have USB-C on one end and USB-A on the other, and that will plug into the back side here. You do have USB-C on board to make sure that the 18650 Workhos battery will stay topped off all of the time. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and focus on how the light looks, shall we? Now the TD02, it looks very, very tactical. Obviously there's no side switch here. So, I mean, at least when I think of a flashlight, if it is rear only, that tends to lend towards a tactical motive behind the design. And I think it fits really, really well here. Now you can see the battery tube here does have some, I guess, machining in it, and it reminds me a lot of the SC33 and the TD01 that already came out. Now there are some Weltool-esque machining inside the head, and I don't know if those are going to provide, frankly, too much cooling, but it is only running that SST40 and doesn't necessarily get too hot, especially with that automatic temperature regulation. So you see the Workos TD02 logo, and I showed you earlier, I'll move in here a little bit so you can see, you do have your USB-C, and right underneath that, there is a battery indicator here. So that'll be green when the battery is full or close to it, then it'll move to a yellow, and then it'll go to red when you really need to get this on that USB-C cord. So we'll move up and you'll see a very, I guess, nondescript bezel here. It doesn't really have any machining at all, and if it weren't for the labeling here, the WK23, letting you know that it's hot, I mean, there's not really too much going on with the actual bezel, but it does have this chamfer here, and that's going to give a little bit of a profile. And if we move up towards the business end, you see that TIR optic, and that's going to give you a 120-degree floodlight. So this isn't going to throw like its, in my opinion, closely designed brethren, the FC12. So the SFT40 on the FC12 with that smooth reflector is definitely designed to throw out quite far. But on the TD02, this TIR optic is designed to give a 120-degree floodlight pattern. So you're going to get a wider, more broad beam of light than just getting it out there as far as possible. And I mean, this was basically released in conjunction with that TD01 as well. So that being a long-range thrower over 1,000 meters, it makes sense that they also wanted to cover the floodlight aspect as well. So we will move down, and you'll see this pocket clip here. Now, frankly, I like when something can serve as a dual function light, and this does kind of limit that because it is a one-way pocket clip. Now, it is pretty on par with a lot of the other pocket clips that I have seen on Workos lights. However, it is a new design, has this hole here, and the throat, while not very deep, I mean, it does sit in your pocket quite nicely, and gives you access to reach the tail cap of the light if you ever need it, if it is in your pocket. I didn't see any sort of holster, and I do have a couple of the generic holsters from Workos, and frankly, this doesn't fit too well inside of those. So I would like to see something brought out as far as a holster specific for the TD02 or any of the other tactical lights that Workos has or is coming out with. So we can see this machining here. It looks almost like flat rifling on the tail cap. And then you can see these saddles, and that's going to make sure that you can always guide your thumb over to the tail cap and get access to that rear switch. And you also do have some lanyard holes inside this singular saddle on the tail cap. So we can look here. We're just going to focus on the tail cap for a second. You can look in here, and it's not a very stiff spring, but when you look at the threads, they are rather shallow and they are square cut. So they do slide in nicely, but before they even engage, they do make contact with the spring, or the battery does make contact with the spring in the tail cap. So I'm not worried at all about the battery losing contact in a sort of a bounce or jounce, or sort of a maraca test, if you will. I did try to bump this, and it didn't give any issues as far as that's concerned. One thing I can tell you is that this tail cap does give a very solid click. One thing I would like to see though is this is a forward clicky, which means that you will have to click the light and then back it off to turn the light on. However, if it is a tactical light, one thing I would be looking for is a momentary mode. The switch feels great. I would either prefer, frankly, if this were a E-switch or if it were a reverse clicky. That's going to give you access to some momentary modes, but instead what you have to do now is you have to click all the way down. There you go, there's that click, and when you bring it back up, that's when the contacts make contact. And it's going to kind of limit your ability to make a momentary selection with this. So, I mean, you can still go ahead and change all your modes, which we'll get into here for the user interface. You can still change all your modes, but being able to hit momentary with this, especially with the double tap strobe, that would be really, really nice to see a reverse clicky on here. So let's focus on the battery here for a second. And like I said, it is a Workhorse branded 18650. This does come in at 3000 milliamp hours, and there are no USB-C charging ports or anything on here. You can see the other spring inside. If you look deep down in there, you can see the other spring inside, and that's going to make sure your battery stays in place. But like I said, no onboard USB-C, or rather on-cell USB-C, because it does have the onboard USB-C charging. So let's go ahead and show you this real quick. Now this battery cover does flip out nicely. They have switched from, I guess, a lot of the larger square flaps, and this is a much more solid, much more robust design. But let's get a USB-C cord over here. We can plug this in, and you'll see that red light comes on to let you know that it is charging, and after it's complete, this light will turn green. Now, this does have overvoltage protection circuits built in, and so you're not going to have to worry about, you know, setting fire to your living room while you're charging it, or your bedroom, or wherever you happen to be charging this. But now that we've gone over the specifications, the design, actually one thing I do want to mention is this is 6061 aluminum, and right now the only color that I have seen, and I haven't heard anything coming down the pipeline as far as other colors, but since it is tactical, you know that you're going to want black, and I mean, it looks the part. The finish is really, really nice. It's a lot more matte than, again, the FC12. Just looking at the differences here, I really do like the matte finish, and this reminds me a lot of my Nextorch lights, so I'm not going to complain there. But if we can focus on the user interface, now, like I said, it is a reverse clicky, and that means that you do have to turn the light on in order to, or rather, it means that you have to fully engage that switch in order to get any output from it. So we'll press it down, and there's nothing going on right now, but once I release, there you go, you do have your light. And this will start in eco mode and cycle all the way up through eco, low, medium, high, and turbo. Now, unfortunately, like I said, there is no way to get to turbo with a double press, but what you can do is cycle with some half presses. There you go. There's low, medium, high, and turbo. Now this is 2000 lumens from the SST40, and it looks very, very white. It definitely gets closer to 6500K the higher you go. But that's not the only thing you can do from this. It does have a double tap to strobe, and when the light's on, if you do a quick double press, it will go to a strobe mode. So if you are in a firefight or need a light that will incapacitate someone who might be coming at you, just a quick double press from this will go ahead and hopefully disengage the attacker or whoever is coming up on you. But guys, that's it for the user interface. There's no hidden secret modes aside from that double tap to strobe, but it being a tactical light, you can kind of expect that it's going to have that. So now what I want to do is I'm going to move this over here, and I'm going to bring out that FC12 again. And I'm not going to do a direct comparison because this came out quite some time ago, and this is brand new today. Now the FC12 is a long-range thrower, and it's meant to be more of an EDC. It does have that rear tactical switch that looks very similar. Looks like it could have come off the same parts bin, if not for the machining on the side. But, I mean, that's kind of where the similarities end. You have a TIR optic in the TD02, a long smooth reflector in the FC12. You have the SST40, which has its dome in the TD02, but you have the SFT40, which is specifically designed for more throw. Now, with a lack of side switch, I mean, there's not really too much similarities on the side as well. And I tell you what, I do wish that the pocket clip from the FC12 would fit on this, but it has a much smaller opening than that on the FC12. So what I want to do now is I want to take the FC12 and the TD02, and we're going to go outside. I want to show you guys the differences in an SST40 and the SFT40 with that TIR optic and the smooth long reflector, and we'll see exactly what these can put out and touch on the differences between them and their beam patterns. So let's get outside. All right, guys, here's the Workhos TD02. Let's go ahead and start in Eco. Then we'll go to Low, Medium, High, and Turbo. This is all 2000 lumens from the Workhos TD02. And here's the Workhos FC12. So we have low, medium, high, and I'll do a double press, and here is turbo. This is all 2000 lumens from the Workhos FC12. It is obviously a thrower compared to the TD02. And to compare again, here is all 2000 lumens from the TD02. And here is all 2000 lumens from the Workhos FC12. Again, SFT40 with a very bright spot. All right, let's head back inside and we'll finish up on a few keynotes. All right, we took the TD02 out with the FC12 and we compared an EDC size tactical light with the long range throw of the FC12. So I want you guys to tell me what you thought. Now, I mean, I know what I thought. To me, it was clearly evident that the FC12 with that domeless emitter and this long smooth reflector, it's definitely meant for throw. Now the TD02, it has a hotspot, but it's so much softer than the SFT40 on the FC12. But I mean, you don't really need to throw a ton if you need a wall of light. And this is touted on Workhos's as well as the Amazon listing, but it's touted as having that 120-degree floodlight. So you can tell that the emphasis is flood on this. Now, similar size, or I guess dimensionally, it has some similarities, both being 18650s, but with the lack of the long smooth reflector, it is going to be shorter. And I mean, frankly, guys, I really, really like this. I like the TD02. I've already kind of spoken my issues with it. I think that they need to find a way to either swap this over to an E-switch or do a forward clicky, and that's going to give us the option to potentially move towards a double press to turbo, or be able to set up a user interface similar to what the new version of the FC12 or the FC12 V2 has, where you can swap between an EDC light, where you can cycle through modes, and then if you hold it down, you can go ahead and change to a tactical mode where you have a high mode as well as a strobe, and that's all you get. I think that would be perfect on this if they were able to switch this over to an E-switch and get that going. Workhos would have an absolute stunner with the brains and the brawn to back it up, and I'm telling you, I would have at least 3 more on order, just because I tend to keep a really, really good light in a lot of my vehicles. I tend to keep a good light, one in my shop. I tend to just hang on to the really, really good lights, and Workhos does a fantastic job of putting a lot of good into something that is budget. So guys, that's the TD02. That's what I think of it. And the design-wise, this is fantastic. I do think there are those user interface bugs. I think that the reverse clicky needs to switch over to an E-switch, or at least a forward clicky to where you can have a momentary mode. And if those were done, this would be a 100 of 100 in my book. So make sure to comment down below. Tell me what you guys think of the new TD02. And not only that, guys, this is my call to action for you. We want to be able to get you guys these reviews early and we want to be able to get a lot of the new reviews to you as soon as humanly possible. So the way we can do that is if you give us a like, you share this video with your friends, and you subscribe to the channel. And when you subscribe, click on that notification bell, and that's going to let us know that you guys want to see more of these, and it's going to notify you as soon as we get a new video out. So thank you guys so incredibly much. I appreciate every single one of you, and we'll see you in the next one.